Okay, I see people at Brooks.
Yeah.
Hello, I see people at Dorothy Calling. Oh, well done. I've never seen this sort of complexity done with Skype before.
So, welcome to the 21st Century Library. We're pretty tech savvy and a little crazy over here. But, all right, guys. They have lots of questions for you. Since this is primarily a teen event, teens are going first. I'm going to ask you guys remember to introduce yourselves first. Just your first name is cool. And then ask away. So, yeah, whoever wants to start.
So, I'm Adam, and I'm from Dorothy Elling. And I wanted to know, do you think he would have been able to survive without NASA's help?
Well, no, certainly not. I mean, he needed to he needed to get home from Mars at some point, so that requires NASA's help. Unless he was just gonna die of old age on Mars.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough supplies, and even a lot of duct tape won't help you build a spaceship.
That's right.
Okay, I have a question. I'm from Brooks. I'm Rashka. When Ridley Scott came to you and asked if this could be a movie, what was your first initial thought?
Well, it wasn't like Ridley who just kind of came and knocked on my door or anything. It was a producer with Simon Kinberg Productions, and the producer's name was Aditya Sood. And he had his agents contact my agents. It was this, whole process. But when they first broached the topic with me, I was, pretty excited. But it wasn't like there was, at the time, Ridley Scott wasn't attached to the project, neither was Matt Damon. It was just like, we want to secure the movie rights because we might someday maybe want to think about making a movie, and we want to have the exclusive ability to buy the rights. So here's a little bit of money so that we have exclusivity and we can buy the rights for a bunch of money later if we decide to make a movie. It was still like a less than a 1% chance that they would actually make the film. So it wasn't that exciting to me. At the time, I was much more excited about the print deal. So
Nice.
Okay, I'll ask the next question, I guess. So my question is, are any of the characters from the book based off anyone you know in real life?
None of their personalities are, well, except Mark. I mean, Mark's based on my own personality. He's, I'm a smartass, and he's everything. He's all the parts of my personality that I like, and none of the parts that I don't like. He's kind of what I wish I were. He's like what I wish I could become. And I think that's pretty common in writing. You'll see the protagonist is just what the writer wants to be. But the rest of the people, they're not based on anyone I know. However, Venkat Kapoor is named after a guy named Manu Kapoor, who was one of my best friends for a long time.
What inspired you to write this book?
I was sitting around imagining how a manned mission to Mars could actually work. Like, how could we do it with modern technology without any made-up stuff? And so I was working out the mission plan, how to get people to Mars, what they do when they're there, how they get back. And then any mission plan needs to account for what happens if there's a failure, a problem, some sort of disaster. And how do you make sure the astronauts don't die just because something broke? And as I started to think about all the things that could go wrong, I realized I had a pretty interesting story idea. So I created an unfortunate protagonist and subjected him to all of it. All right, let's do a question from Brooks.
Hey, Andy, you did a really interesting way of bringing your book to the public. Can you explain a little bit how that process, you revealed that process to people in terms of your beginning and how it finally got into publication?
Well, initially when I was writing the book, so the question was, can you talk about a little bit of the process of how I went from, writing the book? So I was writing the story as just a hobby. It was just something that I was doing for fun, and I posted it a chapter at a time to my website. And it took about 3 years for me to write. And when I was done, I thought, okay, that's it, on to something else. But people said, like, oh, hey, I love this story, but I hate reading it on a website. Can you make an e-reader version? So I made an e-reader version. And then I got emails from other people saying like, hey, I love that there's an e-reader version, but I'm not very technically savvy and I don't know how to download a thing from the internet and put it on my Kindle. Can you just post it to Amazon so I can get it through their system that I'm used to? So I figured out how to do that. You just go to, Kindle Direct Publishing and you post it, and it doesn't cost you anything. And you can set the price to whatever you want, but you have to set it to at least 99 cents. You're not allowed to give it away. So I'm like, all right. So I set the price to 99 cents, and I said, there, now you can read it for free online, download it for free online, or pay Amazon $1 to put it on your Kindle for you. And that ended up starting a snowball. It's like it started selling on Amazon really well. More people bought it than downloaded it for free, and they started giving it really good reviews and recommending it to each other. And that eventually got the attention of Random House. Publishers like it when they say like a book that's already a proven seller, and they're like, well, this makes money already, so let's amp up the amplitude on this and make it make more money. And we'll get some. All right. There's just two guys at Dorothy Alling.
Yeah.
There's a third person. She was just hiding off screen. Okay, so I've got a question from one of you three.
So she has a question, but she's a little embarrassed and doesn't want to ask you. Her question was, how would you have changed the story if there were aliens on Mars?
Well, that's not at all the story I was going to tell, right? I mean, having like alien, you mean like intelligent life or just like bacteria?
Like intelligent life.
Yeah, that would be a completely different movie, right?
Yeah.
A completely different story. So I wouldn't, it wouldn't be so much how would I change it. It would be like, what story would I tell?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, young adult.
Hi, Kelly. I'm the director at Brooks Memorial, and my question is, why didn't Martinez bring any personal belongings with him to on the voyage?
Martinez or Watney?
Martinez.
Martinez did bring personal items. It was his crucifix that Watney carved up to make the wood.
Oh, okay. So, all right, I didn't remember that. I was just remembering that there wasn't the disco music, there wasn't the books, there wasn't that type of stuff. Oh, so Watney didn't bring anything.
Watney, yeah, that's an oversight. Like, I never really explained what Watney had brought for himself. He hadn't brought any entertainment. Whatever he brought for his personal items, it didn't include like audio.
Okay.
And so he was stuck listening to Commander Lewis's disco collection.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure. Young adult, again, in the middle, the girl in the blue. You raised your hand.
Okay, so 2 questions. One, what was up with Lewis's disco obsession?
She understands the value of good music. Okay?
Thanks, you different.
That's, she's just, I decided she was a fan of disco. And, I mean, considering this takes place in like 2035 and Commander Lewis is maybe 40 years old, that means she was born in the 90s, which means that Commander Lewis is about your guys' age. Right. And
What's your cat's name?
oh, that's Demi. Hey, baby.
Hi.
Hola.
She often makes an appearance. She likes to hang out up there. Yep. Anyway, Commander Lewis was born sometime in the 90s, so she was born like 20 years after disco music was even a thing. But, I was born in the 70s, and I like music from the 50s, so it's not that unusual to be into music from way outside of your own era. Everybody's looking at the cat now, right?
I have a discussion question that was included in our copy of the book. How is Mark's sense of humor as much a survival skill as his knowledge in botany?
Well, he had to be he had to be upbeat. He had to keep himself from sinking into despair, or he might have given up and just kind of died. It would be easy to give up. It would be easy to look at the odds stacked against you and say, you know what, I've got over a year worth of food, so I'm just gonna eat that at a normal rate until I run out, and then find a convenient way to die that isn't painful, and do that. But he didn't give up. And I can explain that. Well, the real reason why he had that personality is because I didn't want to tell a dark, depressing story of a guy's internal struggle with, fear and misery and stuff like that. I just wanted it to be MacGyver on Mars. But the kind of explanation I give to anybody who asks is that Watney's not just some guy off the street. He's an astronaut, and he was selected for a Mars mission. He beat out tens of thousands of other qualified applicants, so he must be very, very special. I mean, he was one of the first. He was the third manned mission to Mars. Each mission had 6 people, so he's one of the first 18 people selected to go to Mars. So his psychological profile is much stronger and more resilient than the average person. Okay, so we haven't heard from Brooks in a while.
Andy, did you ever get to go on set, first of all?
They invited me to the set, but I didn't go because they did principal photography in Budapest. Like, all the set work was in Budapest, and all the exteriors were filmed in a desert called Wadi Rum in Jordan. And I just didn't want to travel that far. I got to meet all the stars and stuff at the red carpet event and the premiere and stuff. So I got to meet all the cool people, but I never went to the set.
So my second question was, taking this amazing book and turning it into a movie, do you feel they represented everything in a way that you liked?
Yeah, I think they did a fantastic job with the adaptation. I think they just they really nailed it. I mean, it's a very, very true adaptation. You usually don't have that level of adherence to the original source material when a book becomes a movie. And so they really stuck to it. They had to take a bunch of stuff out, otherwise the movie'd be like 6 hours long. But the things that they took out were self-contained plots that don't affect the primary overarching plot.
Right.
And like, if they'd given me a list of things, if they'd said like, okay, you need to trim this down to 2 hours, Andy, what would you remove? I would have picked the same things. So I'm very, very happy with the adaptation.
Cool. Here's another question for you.
Oh, another one from Brooks.
I wondered about the ending of the book, and also the ending of the movie, which was very different. Because I wondered about the future from the book, not having before seeing the movie, what was going to happen. That set back the missions, the future missions, because he took the launcher. Or, okay.
The MAV.
The MAV, yeah. And then
okay.
Follow up on that, just, the movie was a very different ending.
Yeah. Okay, so as a rule, I don't define anything that happens after the end of a story. I want to leave that up to the reader to speculate. I don't want to casually make an offhand comment in an interview that becomes canon, right? So, but I will say that for Ares 4, what they would have done was they would have sent another MAV to the Ares 4 landing site. A lot of people ask me, hey, did he just screw them out of Ares 4? Does that not happen? It's like, no, they would send another MAV to the Ares 4 landing site, and they might even just roll on with Ares 5 and then do Ares 4 after Ares 5, which sounds weird, but that's how space shuttle missions worked. If you look at the numerical designations of space shuttle missions, they weren't launched in the order of their numbers. It's weird. But they would definitely send a new MAV to the Schiaparelli crater and started fueling up. And then the Ares 4 mission, the Ares 4 crew, who had already been trained for that region and the things they're going to do, would eventually go. And the reason, and in fact, the Ares 4 landing site now becomes the very best place for a manned Mars mission, because his whole trip to Ares, between Ares 3 and Ares 4, which is about 3,500 kilometers, Mark was stopping periodically and taking samples and carefully cataloging and labeling them like he should, because, I mean, that's what astronauts do. And so all of those samples are just sitting in the MAV a couple of 100 meters away from the Ares 4 landing site. There is no greater wealth of information about Mars than the samples in that rover, so they would absolutely have sent a mission there. As for what happens with the characters and stuff, that's left as an exercise to the reader. I can say, like, yeah, he got home okay. And the movie ending, it's a little different in a movie. You can't just have a denouement like I did in the book, where you kind of wrap it up and give an explanation of why humanity is awesome. In the movie, people want to see what happens to all the characters. And I thought they were really clever the way they did it. They showed the Ares 5 launch, and you see Martinez is now in command of the next Mars mission, and Johansson and Beck have a baby, and everybody's home with their kid. Lewis is at home with her husband, and in the background you can see framed disco albums, which I thought was really cool. And yeah, so I liked the ending of the movie too.
Have you ever thought about writing a sequel to your book?
I've thought about it. The problem is I haven't ever come up with an idea that didn't suck. See, the thing is, like, okay, so what do? You say, like, cover their voyage home from Mars? Well, that gets boring because instead of being a guy trapped alone on Mars, he's a guy in a spaceship with 5 other very capable crewmates and a guaranteed constant communication with NASA. Furthermore, the spaceship is designed to last for 5 entire Ares missions, so it's not like everything's breaking down. It's actually designed to last that long, right? And so it's like, their mission back. I could come up with problems and stuff, but it's just the stakes are lower. Or second off, I could say he's a ground controller and there's some other problem. Like there's a problem on Ares 5 and like, Martinez and the new crew are in trouble or something like that. And Mark is on the ground being a ground controller trying to be clever and solve problems. But that is less exciting because it's not Mark who's in trouble. It's other people in trouble and Mark's just kind of like safe and trying to solve problems. Less interesting. And then finally, the stupidest of them is to send Mark into space and get him in trouble again, which really strains plausibility, right? It's like, can you believe this guy's luck? We sent him in space again, and wouldn't you know it? Yeah. So I've never come up with an idea for a sequel that wasn't lame. If I ever do, I will happily write it because I loved writing Watney. He's just a really fun character to write.
What about a prequel, like a book that comes before The Martian?
So that would be. I know what a prequel is. Prequels suck. Basically, I challenge you to come up with any prequel that is better than or even as good as the thing it's a prequel of. Anywhere. Anything. You can't.
Yeah, no.
And the problem is because there's no tension in a prequel, especially in a thriller, because all the characters in the prequel who are in the original thing have to survive. It's not like I can it's not like, ooh, I don't know if Commander Lewis is going to survive this. It's like, yeah, she is. She's in The Martian. Right? So you could show him in training and stuff like that. But even then it would be like, ooh, I wonder if he's going to make the cut and get into the astronaut program. He's like, yeah, he is.
Well,
right. So no prequels, no sequels.
Are you writing? Are you writing anything else?
Yeah, I'm working on my next book now. It's probably come out in late 2016. It's tentatively titled Zhek, Z-H-E-K, and it's a more traditional sci-fi book. It's got aliens and faster than light travel and stuff like that, but done my own way. I came up with my own little side bit of made-up physics that allows faster than light travel, and you can't use that physics to violate conservation of momentum, conservation of energy, uncertainty, or causality. So I tried to say, like, here's some physics that we haven't discovered yet that allows faster than light travel, but it doesn't violate any of the real world physics.
So here at Burnham, our teens are participating in NaNoWriMo. Are you going to be participating in NaNoWriMo? And
NaNoWriMo's my whole job.
Aha!
In the middle of OctoWriMo right now. So no, I don't participate in NaNoWriMo, but anybody who wants to write, I strongly urge you to. It's a great way to just force you to write, because usually you get like paralysis. You sit at a keyboard and you're like, and so you've got to break through that. So you just gotta write. You just write and write and write. And if you write crap, so what? You select a bunch of it and delete it. You lost nothing. It's not like you spent money on it, right? So I highly encourage anybody who has an interest in writing to participate in NaNoWriMo. That having been said, I will hypocritically admit that I don't do it because I write for a living.
And so to address some of those confused looks that I saw, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month. It happens in November. It's a huge internet thing. We're doing it here. There's camp in the summer for kids. There's all sorts of stuff. So you can look that up. But basically what.
And they'll generally say, like, try to write 50,000 words over the month, which is huge. That's like 1,200 words a day. All right, blue sweater.
First of all, well, yeah. If you, all the times when Mark was going to die, were there any times when you were actually like tempted to just say, okay, he's actually going to die this time instead of going to the real ending?
Just like right in the middle of the book, he dies, and the next 300 pages are blank. It's like, ha! No, I never had it in mind to kill him. I always had it in mind for him to survive. I did, however, sometimes come up with challenges or problems that I couldn't find a solution to. Like, I'm like, yep, that'd kill him. And then what I would do is I would either say, what is the smallest thing or bit of technology, the least invasive bit of technology you could have that would allow him to weasel out of this problem? Figure that out and then go retroactively add mentions to it in the earlier chapters. So from the reader's point of view, oh, this was here all along and now I get to use it. Yay. Or if I just couldn't find a good solution and I couldn't find any way to like work in a good solution, I would just back up and say, okay, that problem doesn't happen. So like during his trip to Schiaparelli Crater, I had him I had this idea where the RTG would crack open and it was spewing radiation, and so he had to ditch it and run away. All right, and so he'd be fine radiation-wise because he happened to be wearing his EVA suit at the time, which is shielded from radiation. But now he doesn't have the RTG anymore. And I did all the math and ran all the numbers. He would just die. There's just no way he can survive without that heat source. And so he would have to spend so much of his electricity reserves on heating that he wouldn't be able to drive far enough in his rover every day, and he would miss the launch window for Hermes' flyby. And so I was just like, okay, I can't figure out a way to make him live through that, so I'm just going to not have that happen.
Is that how you came up with the going back to the manufacturing of the panel for the airlock and having that explode on him and these other voices?
Well, that was just a way for me to explain why the airlock suddenly explodes. If I didn't have those little flashbacks, from the reader's point of view, it'd just be like, it wouldn't seem, it'd be like, what? This seems really contrived. It just like, airlock blows up. But by putting those little things in and giving the suspenseful buildup to the weakening of the HAB canvas, then yeah. All right, Dorothy Elling.
If you had a science background or how you acquired all that knowledge, the NASA information and just the problem-solving solutions that you came up with.
I spent my whole life as a space dork, and so I've always I had more than a layman's knowledge, and then I did a lot of research. I didn't have any contacts with NASA or an aerospace or anything. I just Google, lots of Google.
You're a master Googler.
Okay, so how far away do you think we are from the possibility of something like this actually happening?
A manned Mars mission?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess around 2050. NASA says they can do it by 2035, but I think that's a little optimistic. I don't think they'd get enough funding, but 2050 is more reasonable. Also, I think it's going to be a big international effort, not just NASA. I think it'll be more like the International Space Station than like the Apollo program. But what's pretty cool is, think about this, the first human being who's going to set foot on Mars is probably alive right now.
Who did you want to play Mark if it was a movie? And were you like totally ecstatic when you heard Matt Damon was going to do it?
Yeah, I was like thrilled to have like such a big name star take it over, and he's a really good actor, so I was like totally happy. Before they mentioned that he was even interested, when they said like, hey, if it could be anybody, who would you pick? I thought like Bradley Cooper might have been a good one because he does smartass really well, and also Chris Pratt. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to have to go now, but hopefully I answered your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.